been a minute. It's been a minute since I've had the, not even the impulse or desire, but the space, I guess, or ready to take up space to do a video or to talk to myself essentially. So here we are. And so what has been on my mind as of recently, a lot, this, and recently being this like last week, last couple of days, is I've revisited this conversation with myself around self concept, um, and really trying to lean into how to translate what I understand internally about myself to the external world. Because what I'm understanding more and more is that what I have to offer the world, all I have to offer the world, is myself. And that kind of feels like a duh right moment. But not really, because I think traditionally when we're discussing all we have to offer the world is ourselves, we're talking about skills and abilities and things that we can do in the world. And what I'm saying is, all I can do in the world is be me, right? All I can do, all I have the energy to sustain consistently is to speak, is to communicate, and to live my own authentic life. That is all I have to give to the people, right? And that traditionally in this Western capitalistic, white supremacist, patriarchal, oppressive, just not unique as society, that is not deemed enough, right? And so navigating that, and then intersecting the identity of being black and woman, that definitely is just not enough, right? Because what do black people always say? You have to do twice as much to get half as far, right? And so, like, I can't do twice as much to get half as far. I'm not about to do that. I don't have it. And that is a conversation for another day. But really, what I want to focus on today is the way in which I have begun to understand myself and how that relates to what I offer the world, what I do in the world, my gift, so to speak. Okay. So, from very early on, right, I have always understood myself. Now, there's a lot of different um, language and perspective and theory around what this means and why this is. But essentially, all I have always been fixated on me. And I know how that sounds. I am fully aware of how that sounds. And I've spent much of my life trying not to present and be perceived in the way of what that sounds like. And that's like self centered as that sounds. But so go with me, work with me, because as self centered as it sounds, it's true, and but it's not it's self-centered, but not in the way that we conceptualize self-centeredness, right? It's not uh just come with me. Okay. So I've always fixated on myself. I've always thought about myself. I People will tell you, like, when I am walking past any reflective surface, I'm going to look at it and stare at myself. I love to look at myself. I love to examine myself. I love to listen to myself. I love my internal world is very uh active around me and my self-awareness, right? And my interpretation of self and how others are interpreting me, right? And so one of the things that I developed very early is I learned, or I would fixate on myself for so long, parts of myself, specifically personality. Well, no, all of myself. But I would fixate on these parts for so long, and then I would come to these conclusions. And I talk to myself very naturally. And we'll get into what a context for that later. And so because I process through talking, right? And so I talk to myself consistently until I come to these spaces, these aha moments of like, that's how I'm going to communicate who I am. And so when I was younger, one of the things that I really realized around high school age is that I'm my own contradiction, right? Because I exist in the gray areas of things. Not even that. I exist in duality, right? Before I knew about duality and two-spirited people and what we are now understanding about how many indigenous cultures, pre-colonized cultures had these concepts of like people being too gendered or being multiple identitied beings, right? I had a concept for myself. And although it doesn't come through in gender terms, it comes through in like personality and being terms. But right, I knew very early on that I am my own contradiction, right? And so in high school, around like senior year, I would go around and I'd be like, I'm my own contradiction. And people would be like, what the fuck are you talking about, Aisha? And I'd be like, don't worry about it. I just know that I'm my own contradiction, right? Or people would be like, why do you like this one day, but then you act like this the other day? I'm my own contradiction. I just, right? And that is especially difficult, I think, when you intersect the African American community and cultural norms, because that could very easily come off as being fake. And so navigating that is a lot within and of itself. But anyway, my own contradiction. And then when I went into college, right, and I really got enmeshed in and studied psychology, I was like, oh, well, maybe these psychological exams will give me some understanding, some context, right? They'll like study me. And what I found was in those spaces, I also came up as my own contradiction, right? And so if I took the Myers Briggs, when I took the Myers Briggs, I am both an INFP and an INFJ. I am both. It can come out as either one. It never comes out as anything else. It's an INFP or an INFJ, right? When I take the extroverted introverted test, I am an ambivert. That's what it is, right? And I discovered that because I could take the test and it could come out as extrovert or introvert at any given time. And then later on, when they added on ambivert, and that really became a more normalized context, then I would take it and it would say ambivert, right? If I took the type A, type B test, I could be type A or I could be type B. And then I was like, oh, I'm type C, essentially, right? The mixture of these two. Um, so yeah, there's always been, and then when I would ask about this phenomenon, people would just be like, oh well, you took it wrong, or you just have to retest, or go with whatever comes up the most, or right, because I'm an outlier. I don't exist within the norm. And so people try to force me into the norm. And I understood that that was not accurate. Okay. And so over time, I just learned to accept that this language of like, oh, I'm just both. I'm two sides of the same coin. I am my own contradiction, right? And it really started to solidify. And so now that I'm in the meta world, right, and I'm moving out of traditional Western psychology into these other forms of human understanding and connection, right? It's coming up again, which is so fascinating. And so, like a few months ago, I was studying human design. I've started studying human design, but I was studying human design and I was studying the personality and design types. In human design, I'm a self projected projector. I only have, y'all heard me say it, I only have my G center and my throat center defined, right? Which essentially means that all I do is talk. Like I know who I am and I communicate who I am through speech, through language, through, right? That's it. That's it. Now in those centers, the the definitions that I have in those centers are very centered around experiences, right? They're very centered around, communication in a specific way, and speaking uh, life into things, right? Like my identity is to speak life into things, right? That is the confidence, that is the aura, that is the la 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 boom, right? That is the thing that y'all like, okay, or don't, because some people can't stand it. It is triggering for some people, but I'm gonna say what I need to say. That's what's fitting to happen, right? And so existing in those realms and exploring these languages, um it was coming up again, right? And it also happens in astrology, and we'll get to that, and why I don't read whole sign houses, because it just is not applicable to me, right? And so, like, I remember I went on this group that I'm a part of in Facebook, and I was like, y'all, I am a projector. I'm a self-projected projector with two defined centers, right? Multiple defined channels, but two defined centers. And I have all of this open space, and I feel like a reflector. When I read the descriptions of reflectors, I resonate with them at a high level. And I'm curious about is why that is, essentially, right? And people were like, no, you are not a reflector. And I'm like, I know, that's not what I said. I said I feel like one. And so why is that occurring? And people couldn't conceptualize it as often occurs. And as I navigated this space, right, understanding exactly how I feel, like knowing my truth and trying to interpret that through different lenses, what I eventually came to was this understanding of, like, oh, when you separate my personality and my design, right, they are separately, they are reflector energies, which means that essentially the two parts of myself, my conscious self and my subconscious self, are reflectors. They are mirrors for the world. They absorb the world. They move. They are highly empathic, essentially, right? And when they come together, they make me a self projected projector. And that's how that works. And I was like, oh, okay. And this is interesting because as I navigate how I show up in the world and how that relates to wealth building, career, all of those things, I'm learning that, like, girl, you are just here to talk to the people. You are here to talk to people, and you're only going to attract certain people, right? And those certain people are the ones who then take what you give, your guidance, whatever it is that you're giving them, and then they go off into the world and they do what they do, right? And that is how you help to create the world. And that is fucking crazy to me, because I want to do all the things. And I'm not built for all the things. I am built to talk to people, to talk, to be myself, and attract those who are attracted to me, so that I can then guide them to do the work that they are meant to do. What the fuck? Like, essentially, my career is to be an influencer. And that gives me, it is disgusting to my spirit sometimes. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because I swear, because of the connotation of influencer in our current society, and like, ew, that's what I'm meant to do. It's just like be on the internet. And the trick bag is being a projector, right, in this realm of understanding, and even just knowing, right? But this is a language that I can use to describe what I know already inherently, is I want to be seen by other people, but I can't want it enough. I can't go out and seek that. So I literally just have to exist in the world as myself and trust that people will be the people who are supposed to be attracted to me will be attracted to me, with this full on desire for wanting to be seen and acknowledged, but not doing anything specifically to be seen or acknowledged, because the trick bag is, if I do anything in particular to be seen and acknowledged, if I step outside of my identity, if I step outside of my specific way of being in the world, I will not be successful, and I will end up being bitter and frustrated and overwhelmed and over it. Isn't that fucked up? Here's another fucked up part. Right? Here's another trick bag. Let me fuck with your head. In addition, right? So that's human design language perspective. Now on the on the astrology side, right? Here I go pulling my little birth chart. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna find some shit out. Ooh, da da da. And in my birth chart, right? Because I don't read whole sign houses, and I wanted to read whole sign houses, but what I realized was when I read whole sign houses, it was always wrong, right? So say, right, we have all these planets in retrograde right now, right? 7. If I read it in whole sign houses, I would read for Aquarius. And under Aquarius, sometimes some of these signs, these planets will be hitting in houses that when I would read the descriptions or study it, did not feel accurate for me. Because I essentially almost have an almost, right? So you see how everything is just like, just like not quite, just because Pisces in my chart starts at 29 degrees of my second house, which means if you understand how the astrological wheel works, okay, which means that it is essentially almost intercepted into my first house, which is a thing. There are houses that can be intercepted. I hope I'm using the right term, into another house. And so that essentially means that one house will house 2 signs. But mine is not quite intercepted, just like almost, because there's only 30 degrees per house. So my Pisces starts at the very last degree, almost, of my second house, which technically means it's not intercepted, but so much of it is consumed, okay, into my first house that it is. And so I have to read for both Pisces and Aquarius to really figure out what is accurate and then blend those two things together. Okay? Keep walking with me. Why is this a mind fuck? Okay? It's a mind fuck because that also means that I move through the world, that my being, that the way that I present in the world is both Aquarius and Pisces. It also means that when these transits be hitting, they be staying in my first house for a fucking long ass time. Okay? A long ass time. My identity shifts take so fucking long. Okay? It also means that I'm very chameleon like. It means that I don't have a consistent aesthetic all the time. It means that because Aquarius, although fixed, Aquarius is fixed. I always like to tell people that Aquarius is fixed in the universe, right? And so, yes, it is fixed. It's not going to go outside of the universe, but the universe is vast. It is a vast place. So it is everywhere, all the time, all at once, doing so much. It wants to experience all the things. And then Pisces doesn't even, then Pisces is like, fuck the universe. We're going to go into a whole new realm. That is how I move through the world. So there are times where you can look at me and I can look one way. And then you can look at me and I can look a whole different way. I am a chameleon in this bitch. And here's why I believe that is. It's because I am meant to guide people. And one of the ways that I guide people is through penetrating them and entering into their realms and worlds, which I think is very Aquarius, right? Aquarius can, I always say Aquarius will be invited to a party in a whole different community or cultural group, and it will dress up in the regalia and the things, and it will be there. But it also recognizes that it's not a part. It is just attending. It is observing objectively, right? Pisces will become those people. It will morph, if you will, into that being. If you've ever read Lilith's Brood all the way through, and they were talking at the last story of it, and they started talking about how the construct children had this ability to morph based on who their partners were, right? They could become and look and present more like whoever they were partnering with. That's me. That That's me, right? The trick bag is going back to this self-projected projector defined identity center. I don't lose myself in it. So there's this Aquarius part where I'm just observing, combined with this Piscean ability to become, to change, to shift, to look completely different without losing the objective. This is how I exist in the world. Isn't that fucking weird? Anyway, so, and you heard the excitement in my voice. That's because it's so true for me. So, as I navigate the world and the beings, right? And why does this happen, right? Why am I like this? Because essentially I am here to guide other people. That's what projectors do. They guide other people. And so what I've noticed throughout my life is that I can enter into, right? The language for human design for projectors is penetrate. I can penetrate. And mind you, we haven't even talked about the fact that my sun sign, so my rising sign is Aquarius. My sun sign is Leo. Okay. And because my rising, my first house is Aquarius, that means a part of my sun sign, my identity, what I am, right, is in my descendant, which means it's in the shadows. So I'm the sun. I'm a bright energy source, but I am a shadowed sun, okay, almost an eclipse sun, because the way that I move through the world is for the community, for the people, for the public. It is to morph into whoever, but I'm always me on this other end. You see what I'm saying? It's all the same, but different languages to describe the same. On top of that, my north node, okay, is Aquarius, which means that the direction that I'm going in life is directly opposite of who I am. Who I am as a person. It is directly opposite of my identity, my sun source. Only two, right? Because the way that I understand North Node and South Node, and please understand that I am still a baby in all of this language. It is who I am. I will be moving through, shifting into this Aquarian identity to then come back and live this Leonian life. But I have to first go out into the world. I have to be a prodigal son first, prodigal daughter. You see what I'm saying? Okay. And so as I conceptualize all of this, it's interesting because as I'm thinking about currently my career and how it's evolving and where I am going, and understanding fully that I am here to guide people, to attract certain types of people who feel seen by me, who want me to penetrate them. Ooh, because if you want to be pegged, just say that. Oh, that's nasty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. To literally, right, reflect or mirror them, right? To literally morph into a to emulate and morph into a presentation Pisces rising that mimics them, that complements them, that is them to a certain extent, in order to observe them objectively, Aquarius rising, so that I can then feed them back what they need to be fed through my personal gift, communication, talk, speech, language, and through my groundedness and identity, Leo Sun, defined G center, that then feeds them enough to go off into the world to do what they are meant to do, which ultimately fulfills my purpose of serving the community and guiding the community. Projector Aquarius rising. Do you see? Mind you, all I have the energy to do. So I have to be self-centered. I have to spend so much time fixating on myself, because through fixating on myself, I am able to serve the other people of the world. And I literally have no other energy to do anything else. And so as I think about where my career is going, as I think about how I go about doing this, as I recognize the ways I have done this throughout my life naturally in my personal relationships, and now having to transform that into professional, it's a concept. It's right, especially because now in my personal life I have my life partner, and so I'm no longer, because also trick bag, most of the energy in my astrological chart, most of my personal signs are in my 7th house of Virgo. Okay. I have like a 4-planet stellium in my 7th house. Partly Virgo, partly Leo. So relationship is essential to my being. I need to relate to other people. Have to do it. The other stellium is in Capricorn in my 10th house, 11th house, on the cusp between the two. So both social, communal people. I'm here for the relationship. And so relationships are essential to my identity. And I think I will talk more about this at another time. But relationships are essential to my identity. And because relationships are essential to my identity, I need them. They're essential to my personality, how I'm designed. And so a lot of, or maybe I won't, maybe I'll talk about it now. So a lot of the ways that I've moved through the world before has been and will be through relationship. And I've learned over time that I attract powerful beings, powerful energies, typically who are either in high powered positions, powerful positions in a certain space or organization, or who will be. Right? I'm the person who the CEO, the supervisor, the manager, the influencer, the whoever loves. They feel seen by me. They gravitate to me. They want me to see them. And I do. And when I do, and I penetrate into them, and I see the things that nobody else sees or recognizes or understands, and I live in their world for some time, and I emulate, and then I feed them back the truth, the honesty, the highest self, and then I send them off. And that is dynamics. And that is something we will discuss much later, because that's way down. And so, as a therapist, as a telehealth therapist, as I continue to cultivate my language around how I describe myself and promote myself and present, not promote, present myself to the masses to attract who needs to be attracted to me, I have to conceptualize and understand at the fullest level who I am and how I do what I do, because I know that I will is about to get big, right? This idea of just being a muse. I tell people I want to be a muse for powerful people, powerful energies that will influence the world in positive ways, the ways that I agree and would like to, right? And because I know that I am a summoned energy, people, the universe, right? A client the other day told me that they went to get a reading, and before the reading even started, the person doing the reading said, "Ooh, your ancestors told me to tell you to go back to your therapist. You are guided to me. I am. It's bigger than me, right? Because I know that, I have to really understand and solidify the understanding of who I am so that I do not get lost. Pisces rising shit in this bitch. Okay, because it's about to take off and I feel it. Okay, that's it. I just need to get that out. Okay. I hope everybody is doing great. I wish all of you the best. I hope this makes sense because it's still swirling in my brain. But yeah, be blessed.